the Christian Cody show, but more than that, it's the show to live a good life.
Yeah, buddy.
I
Yeah.
wonder what a good life even is.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, I think today would be useful first to check in and see, okay, what are our intentions? You know, to stop and take a few breaths and say, all right, let's set intentions for the podcast or for whatever situation you're going into. So I think let's do that.
Yeah, and real quick before you get going, speaking of intention, I'm like, well, dang, there's intentions for the day, for the week, the quarter, the year.
Yeah.
And then you have different domains of that. Life, financial,
Right.
business.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like every interaction is like, what are my intentions? Who do I constitute myself to be going into this?
And why do you think that's important?
The orientation and a mood.
Okay.
And that open or closes your space of how you think and act.
You know, I often find, and we'll get to declaring our intentions here, but I often find every time I'm asked that, it makes me stop and think, oh, am I acting in a way that's going to take care of this, or am I aimlessly drifting?
Right.
And I think that's a true importance, is to give direction to enable thought and effective action.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's good.
So like when we sat down this morning, I'm like, hey, what's the intention? What are we looking to do? Is this a conversation, or are we looking to provide value?
Right. Yeah. That's really good. So what are your intentions?
I was waiting on it. For me, is have a chance at speaking and being articulate to declare, I guess, value for people, or bring forth and perturb folks. Because I'm a student as well, learning and going through courses and philosophies, and it's there's a lot of distraction out there, but ultimately it's up to you as a human to find what that is that you're after and going after it.
Yeah.
And so my intention is to simply just add value and perturb listeners in a way that's perturbing me and you and having our conversation.
Got it. Yeah, I think for me, my intention today is, like to your point, like be a source of value and help, you know, whether it be to people listening or to you, but also like the more we can speak about things, it's like that's how we develop new thinking by speaking, right? And so like this is why the podcast came about in the first place. Was when we talk, we develop our thinking, and we found that it was very valuable. So maybe we can do that and provide value to other people.
Yeah.
And it also gives us a chance to practice speaking. So, yeah, just to have the opportunity to practice and to have a designated time where we're being very intentional. I think that really sets a mood for me, and an orientation around adding value, being prepared to discuss and have conversations. And, you know, it's like, in a way, it's kind of meant to be messy and not like super put together. And then that helps us organize the thinking so we can focus.
Well, it allows us to start too. I mean, we can try to be too perfect and not start at all.
Right.
And that's with anything, not just the podcast, but any endeavor.
That's true. Yeah. So, with the value in the podcast and things in our discussion today, something we were talking about a little bit earlier that dawned on me, at least that I've been reflecting on, is what is your good life? You know, how much does that cost? How far away from that are you currently? You know, and myself, because I think psychologically I can get off of that, because maybe things aren't good enough. But sometimes when I get in my head, it's hard to know what is good enough.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about beating myself up than I'm worried about being grounded in reality
And helping others.
Yeah. Like, man, I can't be of service to people if I'm so not of service to myself.
That's good. And how do you know you're living a good life? Like, what constitutes a good life? How do you know when you're there?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll continue to chase greener pastures, and you're standing on a gold or diamond right here.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's I got that from Earl Nightingale.
Yeah.
Acres of Diamonds.
Acres of Diamonds. Yep. The premise of the book, The Alchemist, is you know, this guy goes on this journey to find gold, and basically what he does is he goes through this entire journey only to find that the gold was in his backyard, and he had the shovel.
He had one piece of it.
Yeah. So, you know, I was reflecting on like, okay, what does living a good life look like for me? And, you know, I was telling you, I had a conversation with this guy in the hot tub yesterday, and, you know, very well accomplished business person. You know, he's older, he's in his 60s, and he seems to be towards the end of his working career. But here we are at the same place. He's living his good life. In my own ways, I'm living my good life. It's like, well, what more do you want? Like, here's someone who's accomplished, who may be where you want to go or be, and he's coming to the same place to have the same, you know, situation that you're in. So what's all the fuss about?
Yeah.
About this constant desire to, you know, produce. It seems like maybe there's just a lot of breakdowns, and maybe it's just the newness of dealing with these situations. Like, hey, the marketplace changed. Okay. Like, so are you going to change, or are you going to try and stay the same? Because if you try to stay the same, it's only going to lead to breakdowns, which I think causes that psychological loop of, you know, feeling the need to get out, go to greener pastures, for example. When the reality is, if we can be grounded in what is truly going on, is like, it's not that bad, you know?
One thing that dawned on me when you're speaking that, it came up, like, well, when you're going to, how do you know you're living a good life? And I think a lot of that is self-accepting.
Ooh.
And having and feeling of worthy and enough. And so that's the internal work.
Yeah.
You know, living a good life, I think we tend to look outside of, I have this house, I have this car, I have this family. Internally, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Are you worthy enough? Do you feel good? Do you like yourself?
Woo.
Are you able to shine on others?
Yeah.
And you brought that up for me a few weeks ago about just self-accepting. And when you're saying that, I went through the thought process in my head, and I was like, oh man, like, I was much lighter, brighter.
Yeah, that was I believe what I recall saying was, imagine if you woke up today and you were just totally self-accepting. Like, what would happen?
I'd run out of bed and feel, boy, on
you
top
get to
of the
work,
world.
you'd have fun, like all your conversations would be light and bright. You know, it's like, we often attribute to other, like, we attribute our psychology to a situation, whether it be before or after or during, that might not even be necessary. So it's like, for example, it's like most people fear public speaking, and it's not necessarily the public speaking, it's the anticipation that they fear. So that's like, you're psychologically psyching yourself up before you even step on stage. Like,
that's the internal.
Yeah, like, you don't even have a chance. So imagine if you were totally self-accepting, like, you'd be on every stage all the time and not give a rip, you know? And so I think that, yeah, that's a really good point about being totally self-accepting and saying, like, part of the work that I'm doing now with the coaching stuff to manage my own psychology is accepting all the bad parts in my mind that are bad, you know? It may appear as a weakness because it causes a breakdown, but is that inherently a bad thing? Well, no, not really. And do you want to modify that? Do you want to completely get rid of that? You know, like, what are your intentions with that? And then if you do want to completely get rid of it, just know that you're going to have a journey of fighting with your brain, because you've known this pattern, and now we want to modify to a new one. And that's going to take time. And for me to think that I'm just going to do it like that after one conversation, have it, it's just, that's not real. And so my self-acceptance journey, it's been really important for me to, like, front load that work, like, be very heavy in that. And it's funny that since I started the coaching work and we started the philosophy stuff, I'm like, man, I'm learning so much every year. Like, I don't think many people would really understand just the amount of learning that happens.
And the accumulation of it, and building the compounding effect on what you're learning.
Yeah, and it's like, I was thinking about this, like, in a way of, if you spent all day, every day concerned about your priorities, about taking care of your family and providing value to people, you wouldn't have time to gossip with others. And the other thing is, like, you would have your thought patterns about taking care would be so well developed that it's like unrecognizable. So I'll like a couple of examples, like when I play pickleball and I talk to people, I share maybe a strategy that's worked for me. Maybe it's around food, for example. And they're like, whoa, no way. Like, how does this, well, yeah, but I put time and energy into that for years. I spent time doing that. I had food plans written for me. I tried the purchasing the meals and doing all this, that, and third, and learning like and it wasn't like I didn't spend a full year just studying food. It was just like, but when I would eat, I would pay attention, and I'm just iterating and changing. Okay, that makes me sluggish. Okay, I like this. Okay, I don't like this. Okay, I know this pattern about myself, but I chose to pay attention there. And so it's like when you start to put focus on these things in life, naturally you're going to get what you want and where you want to go. But if we distract ourselves and we stay out of that, it's mechanistic that you're going to not develop in those areas. And so that's been a big lesson for me. And I started to notice that, wow, when I started being very intentional, well, I'm learning all the time, and there is so much information. And I feel like even now, like, so that was a lot. Now I'm like, man, I got so much more I can improve on. And I didn't know that I was even capable of that. And then it's like, if you talk to Chris in 2018, what did Chris want? Chris wanted a place where he could park his car in a garage. He wanted a house of his own. He wanted to be doing real estate full time. It's like, hey, pal, you got it. Like,
you have it right now. Yeah.
And so it's like, sometimes I may take my situation for granted because I see all of these things going on, and maybe I see all of my flaws. I see all the problems in business, right? So it'd be easy for me to make myself wrong and bad rather than be fully self-accepting of where I am.
Yeah. Well, that's good. The you have everything that you desired right now, but it's maybe not good enough still because of some whatever reason that we have to find out. Part of that might be the internal. I remember working at the bank. You said taking things for granted. Working at the bank from 8 to 5, I'm like, man, I wish I was not at this desk all day. I can be out and do things.
Yeah.
Now I am. And
you got what you wanted.
Part of me wishes, like, man, like this business ownership thing is kind of hard. It's complex. It's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And especially in the phase where we're at is we're still trying to like level up.
Startup almost.
And so it puts in perspective of, I have the things that I wanted when I was at the bank. And now when I have them, it's like, maybe I want that bank and want to be told what to do. Those are the challenges of like, man, you have to realize what is it that you really want.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the intention. Because I wanted this and I have it, but it's maybe sometimes not good enough.
Yeah. I think there's a few things that come up for me. One of which is, we're not at a place where we are so far from survival that it's like it's easy. We're at a place where we have to change all the time to not be in survival. So I think that's where the challenges show up, is like we make things a bigger deal than maybe they really are. Like when we talk to like maybe seasoned people that have been in business for years and have very successful businesses, it's kind of like, okay, this is the process. Like, it's not like you can just skip that phase. It's like we have to go through that and learn. But that's the phase. Like, you got to go through it. And how do you manage your psychology when you're going through that, I think is where we're kind of bumping into the maybe not good enough, or does it have to be this hard? It seems easy when other people do it. Or they casually talk about the difficulties that we face, and it's like they don't know how real it is. Like,
well, yeah. Seems. You said a big word there. It seems easy.
Yeah.
We don't know. At CG, there's folks that we thought we were looking up to, and you find out they're negative.
Right.
And so it's not all about what you see, and people post usually the good
highlight
things.
reel, yeah.
I think it's more authentic to really post both good and bad of where you're at, because you're not always going to have good times.
Yeah. I mean, and I think we're all called here for a purpose. And I think the process of discovering what that purpose is and how we help others is a challenging one. And so when we're not clear on that, I think, and like, I'm not clear on it, by the way, it can be challenging, because you're kind of like, to me at least, I go to, what's the point? Yeah, I'm doing all this work and like, that's kind of like the poor me thing. Like, what's the point? Why am I doing all of this? Because, we were talking earlier, it's like, what do we have to show for it? Yeah, what do we have to show for it? Well, it's our thinking that's developed. It's our ability to create value and help in situations that otherwise we wouldn't have even known about. Like just using the food thing as an example, because it's easy. When I talk to people, that's a very well-developed thought pattern that I have. But I want to do that for every area of my life. Everywhere, all the time, super developed in the thought patterns. And because of that, that's philosophically, that's the definition of wealth, is refined narratives about taking care of concerns. And so I want to be wealthy in that way. And that takes trial and error. That takes learning from people. That takes breakdowns. That take, so.
Yeah, you said something about going back to the accomplishments and not having anything to show for it. Part of it is the Debbie Downer, or the negativity that's kind of lingering, that's maybe fundamentally always there, that overrides the positive of, well, what did you accomplish? And you said the knowledge, the networks, increased your awareness to move for years to come.
Yeah.
And to me, that's something that's hard to see, because we look at the objective of the numbers. What are the numbers?
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yep. We have the capability to, let's see, when we're looking outside of ourselves, it is very easy to check the score. When we're coming from a place of starting internally, it is less obvious, in my opinion, to notice. So I think about, what is my relationship with myself? How self-accepting am I to myself for everything? not just in business, but how do I wake up and accept myself daily? And I noticed that if you were to compare side by side 2018 Chris to today, I wouldn't even recognize myself today. But that's the thing, is like, it's a story about myself that has changed, but I have this grand idea that it's going to be, this thing that I could be like, Cody, here, look at this. This is what I got.
I got it. I won. I'm good. I'm content.
Yeah.
And that's where I had asked, how do you know you've hit success or living the good life? And that's for you to, I guess, declare and constitute. I was reading an article. This is going back to intentions from Toby. 70 million of 78 million baby boomers. Okay, that's what ages 40 to 60.
No, those people are gonna be like 60 to 80.
Okay, so that demographic, according to this article, 70 of 78 million are broke, and what that means is they fail to forget their intention. They failed to add value, to build skills, because they worked in the same spot for 20, 30 years. And they thought they should earn more money because they were there for 20 years, but they didn't really build skills and the value necessary.
Yeah. Well, also they didn't save for their retirement.
That was it. That was my next point is, yeah.
Well, it's like from all the readings and stuff with Toby, he talks about that arrogance or conceit or thinking that you don't need, like, living in the moment, that you don't need to save and invest for the future, that it's going to take care of itself, or somehow, some way you're going to find a way to do. It's like,
I'll just work longer.
So I have like I have one family member who's in assisted living, and learning about the Medicare Medicaid process. They like the story is you have to have no money for them to give you the Medicare Medicaid, I believe. At least is how I hold it. So it's like they like so when people have no money, there are these government assistance programs that will assist them, and but to me, like, that's all well and good to some degree, but you're living in constraints. Like, you're going to only be able to receive whatever they are willing to pay for. And I don't know how good the medical coverage is. You know, let's say you break a hip, you know, how does that work for them covering that? And then I think a lot of people bank on like Social Security, and I mean, what's that going to give you, like $1,000, $2,000 a month? Like, what's that going to provide for you to eat?
Just enough.
Yeah.
If that.
Probably not. And so I think that at least since we started with the real estate, it's been very apparent to me that I don't want to rely on a 401k, Social Security, or some sort of pension from anything. I want to go out and create my own, because I know that I'm better off being the creator than being subject to what someone else is going to give me. Now, if I do receive these things, great, but I'm not banking on that. I'd rather create my own.
Right.
And that's then this whatever supplemental assistance is icing on the cake. So I had a conversation with a guy. He owns like 20 something properties. He gets Social Security, he gets pension, he gets these things, and he's 90.
And then he gets his rental income.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's talking like he's making $250K a year, and he doesn't have to do anything. You know, so he just gets to drive around to his properties and collect rent, chill, you know, and he's like super busy. It's crazy how busy he is at 90.
Yeah.
You know, and he's still out driving and stuff. And so I love that, because he's living his good life and has been for quite some time. And he's lived a very full life. And I've visited his house and talked with him, and he showed me around, and like, he's kind of like, you know, he's 90. So he's got just 3 times my lifetime currently lived. And so he's just sharing like these different phases of, you know, like he has like his room set up in different phases. So it's like, this was me as a kid. This was me.
Wow.
And you know, it's just so interesting to see. And he's like, no one in my family that's like immediate family is alive. It's like his niece or nephew or something that live with him. And I found that fascinating, because he's been living his good life for quite some time, and he continues to wake up every day and design his life and craft it in the way that he wants. And I think like taking that, this is where the magic is in being intentional and creating something, like constituting what it is that you want.
That's the magic.
Yeah, you're already doing that. That's the thing. You're already doing it. So the reality you have is what you created. That is the magic you created. So if you're not satisfied with that, that is a function of your own narrative, not anyone else's narrative or anyone else's situation. Like, you know, something bad happens to you. Did you put yourself in that situation for these things to happen? Okay. Well, yeah, at some point you have to accept responsibility that you did that. So I think that that's difficult to realize. It's hard to face. Damn, it was me that did that. It was me that caused these breakdowns for myself. And the more we can face that, to me at least, this is how I'm working it. The more I can face that I created this, the more I can accept and say, great, let me take my power back, and I'm going to create something new, because I have that capability. I'm already creating it.
Where I thought you were going with that, the end there was, this is a situation I've put myself in, is accepting that responsibility of, if you're in 40K of credit card debt and you're working 2 jobs, that's the situation you put yourself in, nobody else.
Yep.
And so I've been in that position.
Yeah.
That's where I got the 40K. That was me living in my parents' basement. But I knew if I can get myself out of that situation, it's only going to be up to me to get myself out of that situation.
Yeah. And that shows up in life every single day. That's the actions you take to produce income. That's the, like, if you decide like, oh, I'm going to take the afternoon off, I don't want to do any work. Well, you're foregoing creating money if you choose to like go out and make offers. Or if you choose to not learn and distract yourself, you know, how often are you doing that? Because by doing that, you are creating, you know, your current situation. So if you want to modify that and your intention is to earn more money, then how do you produce a return more frequently throughout your life? And that may mean that, hey, instead of drinking with the boys on Friday nights, like, I'm going to sit down and go over my plan and like determine what am I going to do here, or who am I going to be to show up that attracts more money.
And what's coming up for me is how difficult that is to give that up on Friday night because of the delayed gratification or what our culture has now come to of instant gratification.
Yeah.
I was talking to a good friend of mine who is a W-2 job engineer, makes good money, a little over 100,000 for his demographic. It's good money for him. But he's not satisfied because of the hours and the schedule and being capped. And so I'm like, hey, like he wants to talk business and get into something, maybe like real estate. And I'm like, until you do something to change, you're going to be in that same situation. And I was just point blank, like, I didn't really have an answer because there is no way to start.
Yeah.
It's what's your ambition, what's your intention, what are you looking to accomplish? And his answer was he wants to control his own time. Oh, well, then you can be a salesman on commission only.
Boom.
Okay. So,
you got it.
so that changes now the space of what could be if that's what you want. But I think he doesn't quite know what he wants, but that's just his initial response, because being locked up at 8 to 5, of course you want your flexible time, your freedom there.
Right.
But my main message to him is, what's the intention and what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Because he's the one that will drink on Friday night with the boys or come home from work and do Netflix.
Yeah.
Instead of, that until moment. And that's a message for everybody.
Yeah.
Like that, no care package is going to drop out of the sky and say, here you go, done.
Yep. I'm so glad that you didn't do any work. Here you go. Yeah.
So that means you actually have to take
apply
steps.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not easy, but that's like that. This is where we're at right now in this conversation, right? Is like, we're talking about like creating your reality based on your intentions, and you have to be intentional about it. Like that is like being the cause of something is like, that's part of like constituting an intention. And until you're willing to be responsible for it, it's not gonna, it's not gonna change, to your point. And so I'm in wonder about how to manage those conversations to cut through the, like, to your point, like, until you change, nothing else is going to change. And they may not be clear about what it is that they want, but what they do know is they see Cody over there doing his thing, and they see that, or they speculate about the freedom you have.
Yeah.
Right.
But they're also, that is a part. The other side to that is the conflict they're in, the challenge they didn't notice. And that's something they want to work out of.
Yeah. It's funny too, because they want to work out of it, but they actually may not want to, because they don't realize just how many benefits they receive and how easy it is for them to get a check every Friday or every other Friday, and they don't have to worry about that. The medical stuff's covered, and maybe their wife has, she needs medical assistance often. Okay, boom. So, like these things, like we often, we want something that's outside of ourselves, but we also don't understand the responsibility of receiving that.
You triggered something that came up. Wanting versus committing.
Okay.
Okay.
Say more.
So when you want something, want is a high concept. It's easy. It's to announce, whereas committing is practical. I want to go to the Bahamas. I want to do something this year.
Yeah.
Versus I'm committing to doing this. Now, you might not hit it,
Yeah.
But I think the want, like this individual I'm talking to, he wants the freedom. He's not committed to it. He wants to say that to get him in a good mood, riled up, but there's no action to follow.
Yeah.
And so that was something that struck me when you said that, because that's it goes back to the delayed and instant gratification. We want what we want, but we don't want to put forward the effort to get what we want.
Right. Yeah, and I want to say that that's probably a lot of like societal stuff being pushed on us, where we're kind of like lumped in, where many other people have the same perception, right? Now imagine he did get what he wanted. Now this is something that I've realized for myself is like we were talking earlier, 2018 to today, like Chris has what he wants. So what's different from 2018 visualizing and thinking versus where I am today is the real like grounding in reality of what's required to not only achieve this, but also maintain this. There's a level of responsibility that I didn't understand back then that is required for today. And so I think sometimes the breakdown, and this is where I think self-sabotage comes in, is like we might not understand the responsibilities required to have what we say we want. And yeah, the grass may be greener, but we don't know what people have been through to produce something. Like, oh, so-and-so has a successful business. Well, did you see that? What about when the other 10 failed? Like you missed all of that. You know, it's easy to see in your current situation, you're viewing other people from that situation rather than, you know, grounding. Where are they? Who are they?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's something that you learn along the way. It's not like you could just like forward predict and be like, oh, well, if I want to do this, then these are all the responsibilities. Yeah. So.
Wow. Well, to sum it up, intentions. I mean, that was the main theme of this call.
Yeah.
This episode. And for me, it's it provides the direction so that I know that, okay, I want this, but what's the practical steps to get to this? And the intention, at least, is the fundamental or ultimate goal. And then you have nested strategies within that. And that in of itself is maybe difficult to do, but I'll challenge you and me to begin that. Yeah.
Yep. Set your intentions and then work them. Like, give them time. Set aside time to work them. I have a book over there called Sprint. And when you constitute, let's say, an intention or a project, the Sprint book is mostly used for tech companies, but it's the idea that you push really hard to achieve something. You give it a lot of time, energy, effort, and focus for a short period of time. And then you just complete. How did it go? You know, after action report, complete it. And then you reconstitute. And whether you want to start a new sprint or maybe you want to just like maybe just open up space to continue, and now you have new responsibilities. But the sprint helps put focus on a specific project or situation. So I think that's really important. Give time to the things that you want. And don't say you want something and then it goes out of sight, out of mind. Like, be sincere about it. Don't forget the commitment that you made.
Yeah. Be sincere.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
That's it.
That's
on
it.
The KC Show.
We out.